and welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Aniyusabata, Desawe Kanda. Also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Okanse. Tonight, Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagwin, is expected to decide the fate of the embattled Pandai Member of Parliament, Matthew Nyendam, as the majority pushes for the seat to be declared vacant following a court order of the rerun of the constituency's parliamentary elections. Stay with us. We've got details for you on this. Also, the extension of the Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Honos Turner, has stirred mixed reactions from security analysts and other stakeholders. Tonight, we examine the key issues shaping the debate. Stay with us. An 11-member committee, that's a ministerial oversight committee, it has been inaugurated to guide Ghana's preparation for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. But how crucial is this body to the nation's campaign? Well, we have a conversation on this matter tonight. As always, you're an integral part of it. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we use is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana breaks.
The majority has requested that Matthew Nyendam be denied entry into the chamber, saying he's no longer a member of parliament after a court order for fresh elections in the Pandai constituency. The minority has, however, rejected that application and the court ruling, accusing the bench of shameful conduct.
What kind of kangaroo judicial system we having now in Ghana? We will not mince words. They can conspire to call us one by one for a so-called contempt of courts. We are criticizing their shameful conduct. We are not afraid. We are ready to be in Nsawam. How can a judge who calls himself a judge sit in court and misconduct himself in such a manner and expect the country to be quiet?
More than 400 persons displaced by the Akosombo Dam spillage are still stuck in various camps in the North Tong district of the Volta region. 2 years after the disaster which displaced thousands of residents in North, Central and South Tong district, housing unit projects commenced by government to provide decent accommodation for victims continue to stall. Kenneth Gilbert Ejay is the Minister for Works and Housing.
Looking at the rate at which the work is going, I would say it's even below 10% overall completion rate. It will be below 10%. And it confirms a report that I received from our consultant, AESL. So I just want to assure the good people of South, North, and Central Tong that His Excellency the President, through the Ministry of Works, Housing, and Water Resources, will ensure that this project is completed.
Tension is mounting among more than 300,000 teachers nationwide, following a statement from the Controller and Accountant General's Department indicating that the Continuous Professional Development Allowance will not be paid this month. They are urging the Minister of Education Haruna Idrisu and the Ghana Education Service to act swiftly to resolve the matter and prevent possible industrial unrest. General Secretary of Ghana National Association of Teachers, NATS, Thomas Tanko Musa says more than 300,000 teachers are frustrated by the decision.
Where we are now, the teachers will want to hear them as to exactly what the issues are. Things are really difficult. If you see me in this one, is to express the anger and frustrations of teachers regarding the whole of this arrangement. We are calming nerves down, but even though Controller also has issued some kind of statement, but still all is not well. And Honorable Minister, this particular situation confronting us today, which started somewhere yesterday, Please, you need to address it as soon as possible.
Finance and tax expert Nelson Kujo-Kuagbeji says the Bank of Ghana's decision to cut the policy rate to 18% will only have economic impact if commercial banks promptly lower lending rates. The central bank announced the 350th basis point reduction after its 127th Monetary Policy Committee meeting, pointing to improved macroeconomic conditions, strong reserves, and a steady decline in inflation projected next year. And a steady decline in inflation projected into next year.
We realize that in the 2026 budget, the government intends to create about 800,000 jobs. And that jobs will not only be created by the government, but the private sector will play a key role. Now, the private sector too cannot grow when they cannot have access to cheap source of fund. And so we expect that now that the policy rate is at 18%, the banks will cut down further on their lending rate.
Ghana's export sector is breathing a sigh of relief after the United States reversed its 15% tariff on key Ghanaian products. The decision, which comes after months of uncertainty, is expected to protect jobs, millions of dollars in revenue, and restore competitiveness for exporters in one of Ghana's most important markets. Samson Asaki Awingubert is the Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana.
In fact, many people would have lost their jobs. The exporter would have lost his jobs because if you do not have the financial muscles to go and then pay that amount of money to the U.S. government, then of course your product they cannot enter into their market. And then also those who were also farming or producing or agrowers who were also producing and expecting these exporters will come and buy from them and then process and export will also lose. So it was going to be a very huge impact, negative impact on the Ghanaian economy as well, knowing that we have had stability.
Oh, there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7 as well as probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sector Sensei Spray and Go, Tum Preko. Coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, we go straight to Parliament because earlier today, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kenspo Bagwin, has indicated that he will rule on the fate of the Pandai Member of Parliament, Matthew Nyandam, as the majority in Parliament is pushing for his seat to be declared vacant. We'll have more on this shortly. There's a lot that has been happening in the constituency as well. After this court ruling a couple of days ago, the constituents have been reacting to it. And we're there as well, gauging the mood in the constituency. But the majority in Parliament earlier today requested that Matthew Nyandam be denied entry into the chamber, saying he is no longer a member of Parliament after a court order for fresh elections in the Pandai constituency. Now, the minority has, however, rejected that application and the court ruling, which we got to know earlier today by Nelson Ross Ndapiambo, the majority chief whip, the Southern Member of Parliament. He did indicate that this court ruling has indeed been served on Parliament. Well, the minority is accusing the bench of a shameful conduct. Quite strong words from Alexander Apenyomarkin. But before we hear from him, let's hear from Majority Chief Whip Nelson Roxon Dafiamekpo on the floor of Parliament earlier today on this matter. Take a look.
Mr. Speaker, ipso facto, the Honorable Nyandam is no longer a member of this House. He's not. We have received the court orders and received proof of service. The orders of the court has been duly served on Parliament. It was served yesterday. The Honorable Nyandam is now a persona non grata. I pray that he must even be marched out of the chamber.
That's Nelson Roxon Dafiamekpo there, the majority chief. But this position that he's strongly espoused, making reference to the fact that indeed Parliament has been served with the court orders, and reason why he was, in fact, the majority was of the view that Matthew Nyandam should not even be holding himself as a member of Parliament and attending to the business of the House earlier today. But the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, was quite clear in his words. He did not agree with this position. He juxtaposed what's happening to Matthew Nyandam to what happened to James Gyakye Quayson and what he did as a leader of the House at the time. Take a look.
Never, as leader of this House, did I advocate that Honorable Gyakye Quayson, having lost a high court case, should be marched out of this chamber. Let me spend a bit of time on Gyakye Quayson. After the high court ruling, and he filed an appeal and a stay of execution, this House never denied Gyakye Quayson his right of entry and his right to be heard.
That's Alexander Afenyo-Markin there. But earlier, they also addressed the press. There was a press conference on this matter where Afenyo-Markin addressed the press, also flanked by the minority members of Parliament. Clear support there, raising concerns with the entire legal process leading to the annulment of the elections. And well, here's the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, where he had some strong words for the trial judge on this matter and why he ruled the way he ruled. In his view, you see, it described it, some very strong words earlier at the press conference. Take a look.
The petitioner himself was clear and specific. He requested rerun in those 41 polling stations. Yet, in a development that defies ordinary legal reasoning, the High Court issued an order directing a full rerun of the entire Pandai parliamentary election, covering all 152 polling stations, to be completed within 30 days. The NDC candidate and his supporters were aware of the judgment before the day. For a judge to casually void an entire constituency elections without first ensuring that a complete reasoned judgment was prepared and published is not merely irregular, it is judicial irresponsibility of the highest order. What kind of kangaroo judicial system we having now in Ghana? We will not mince words. They can conspire to call us one by one for a so-called contempt of court. We are criticizing their shameful conduct. We are not afraid. We are ready to be in Nsawam. How can a judge who calls himself a judge sit in court and misconduct himself in such a manner and expect the country to be quiet? To the good, peaceful and hard-working people of Pandai, your votes matter, your voice matter, your MP remains at post.
Oh, that's Alexander Afenyo-Markin there. It describes this decision by the trial judge as a judicial irresponsibility of the highest order. Well, he addressed the Pandai constituents, and earlier today we were there as well in the constituency. Members of the New Patriotic Party protested the decision of the court that's in the Pandai constituency, the MPP members there. They're insisting that Matthew Nyandam is the validly elected member of Parliament despite this decision by the courts a couple of days ago. Joseph Laduri is the NPP youth organizer for the Pandai constituency. He spoke to my colleague earlier today.
The media, fellow patrons, and the good people of Pandai, good afternoon and welcome to our press conference on the topic, the ruling of the Tamale High Court on 2024 Pandai parliamentary election petition. Ladies and gentlemen, the ruling handed down by the Tamale High Court judge in the case between Honorable Nsala and Honorable Matthew is not only deeply troubling but also deeply regrettable. Although we accept the ruling, we are compelled to express our profound disappointment and describe it as a miscarriage of justice. In light of this development, we urge all our members to remain steadfast and resolute in their support as we await the view of the appeal court. Friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, as we await the appeal court's decision, we are prepared for any eventuality and not be complacent about the outcome. We are very confident in the strength of our case and know that the appeal court justice will restore the trust of the people in the judicial system, as evidenced by they speaking to the issues on the face of the pink sheet without attaching emotions, regardless of which political party is in government. It is worth noting that if not for the distraction orchestrated by our opponents at the Constituency Coalition Center, we wouldn't have been here.
Well, those are the constituents in the Pandai constituency responding to this court ruling a couple of days ago. After the 2024 election, this was how the results looked like. Bear in mind that 41 out of 152 constituencies results. That's 152 polling stations, I beg your pardon, results in this constituency is what has been contested. At the end of the 2024 elections, parliamentary elections in the Pandai constituency, Matthew Nyandam declared MP-elect 27,647, representing 53.2%, as again Daniel Nsala Wakpal of the NDC, 24,213, representing 46.6%. So it's not really a wide gap in terms of the victory. A difference of about 3,434 in nominal terms between the two of them. Now, the contention, which was really the subject of this decision, and in fact, this particular decision by the NDC candidate to go to court, was with 41 constituencies. I beg your pardon, there's 41 polling stations in the Pandai constituency. Out of the 152, you hear Alexander Apenyo-Markin talk about if the problem was with the 41 polling stations, then why should that lead to a rerun of the entire 152 polling stations in that constituency? Well, Justice Abdullahi is a private legal practitioner. He's joining us on Zoom as well on this matter. Justice Abdullahi, appreciate you. Thank you very much for joining us. I come to you again on this matter, listening to Alexander Apenyo-Markin, and that's been the refrain of the minority over the period, and then also Matthew Nyandam's lawyer after this ruling a couple of days ago, that if the contention was with the 41 polling stations, why then does it have to affect all the entire 152? I mean, really, from where you sit, and not having to also second guess the trial judge on this matter because we haven't seen the full reasoning behind this decision. How does the minority's concerns strike you?
I think that when people make the argument that whether 47 or 35, and so the judge should have probably limited himself to the 47 and delivered his verdict in relation to the 47 and possibly order for a rerun of those 47, if you like, positions or otherwise. I think that is not left to any of the parties to determine, because the judge has a raw picture of the event, and this time I'm deferring to the judge out of fairness, because when a person has a complete control of the matter, he understands better if you ask the question, would those 47 polling stations or pink sheets be enough to set aside the entire elections as run originally? If the answer is yes, I would consistently go for what the judge is saying. However, if it is not enough to completely uproot the remaining polling stations, assuming there were 1,000, the remaining polling station of 9,504 or 40 thereabout, if it may not be fair to say that those areas that were properly run should be also set aside and be rerun. So my point is that for a judge to make that kind of decision, he must have a basis in law, and of course supported by the evidence that was adduced at trial, to say that perhaps there were more wrongs. Those wrongs put together would only lead to one irresistible conclusion, and that conclusion is to completely rerun the entire election rather than running the 47 or thereabout that were contested. And on the basis of this, I would like to defer to the judge as having it right on this call. But the good part is that we have an appellate court, and that appellate court, luckily for us, the loser of the petition has filed an appeal. And luckily for us, that will be the end of the trial and then the hearing once the evaluation of the appellate court comes out and their decision comes out. And so, three wise men would have a better grasp of the issues, and upon their review, I think we'd all be better off making an informed analysis from that point as against what we have today.
And rightly so. Rightly so, indeed. We all have to wait for the full reasoning behind this particular decision, and then also what would come out eventually, because this matter, this ruling is being appealed. So I'm going to halt it here and wait to see how the coming days will look like on this. Thank you very much for joining us. Justice Abdullahi is private legal practitioner. Thank you for connecting with us. But this is Ghana Tonight. It's one issue to watch in Parliament in the coming days. So stay with us. But coming up next, the Inspector General of Police's extended tenure in office is sparking some sharp debate among security analysts, and some members of Parliament as well who hold alternative views. We're going to get into the minds of some persons who have been expressing their views on this matter. And we got to know yesterday the Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yohono, has had his recommendation for a 2-year contract extension. In fact, it was the Police Council recommendation for his period or the tenure to be extended additional 2 years. The President has approved that recommendation from the Police Council to allow the IGP to continue leading the police service for 2 more years. We did know that when his name came up for consideration as the IGP, that he was nearing that period of retirement. It was a conversation a year ago, but this has been met with some reactions, as a matter of fact, from various quarters of the public. We're speaking to a member of Parliament on this matter as well, who has been sharing his views with Christian Yale. But Emmanuel Kuting, who's a security analyst and the executive director of the Africa Center for Security and Counterterrorism, also had his opinion on this particular development. This is what he has to say. Take a look.
We as an organization have come out with a press statement. And we don't need to get this thing twisted. It's not about you would know as a person. It's about 2 things: government policy and the office of the Inspector General of Police. You see, when you bring a policy, which one is the policy? And we've all been students of public policy before. Communication matters. And I think this government have to respect the people of this country, and they don't need to do things haphazardly the way things have been done. Nobody forced this government to bring a policy that they were no longer going to give any form of extensions to our public service heads. And clarification was sought, and they gave exception to the university lecturers. Now, if you are suspending that policy, you need to come back to the good people of this country. First, the policy was to promote institutional continuity. And it was also to give some kind of prediction to succession. And thirdly, the argument was that it was to be merit-based progression within the public service. So if at any point in time, And as a security watch, I know there are so many things the president and people at the top there can see and we at the bottom cannot see. There is a need for this extension. You have to communicate clearly to the good people of this country.
Emmanuel Koting, but Solomon Owusu was also the Director of Communications of the United Party, had this to say earlier today on New Day. Take a look.
My candid opinion. I am not one of those that are for contract extensions. I am not for it.
Why?
Because then it, as it were, diminishes morale in various workplaces. But you see, I find nothing wrong, absolutely wrong, from my candid opinion, heart of heart, with what the president has done.
Why?
You see, when you are the president of the land, all you need to do, your Bible is the Constitution. Is that not the case?
This one?
This is the Constitution. The president is regulated by the Constitution. Now, if we go to Article 199, which has been amended, I mean, the Act 527, the Constitution Amendment Act of 1996, it gives the president that opportunity to extend people that are due for retirement their tenure by no more than 2 years. Because Article 99 says that people are supposed to retire by the age of 60 years.
199.
Yes. Then we amended, Ghana as a country amended our own constitution and gave the president the opportunity to extend public officers who are due for retirement by 2 years. That's the maximum. They cannot go beyond the 2 years.
The Chumakwama Member of Parliament, that's Kofi Amankwame, who was also a former Deputy Defense Minister, shared his thoughts as well with my colleague Christian Yale on this in Parliament earlier today.
Out there, those who are also down there working so hard to get to the top would never get to the top. If you have somebody who has about 3 years to go on retirement and now you have 2 years, by the time it gets to that person, he'll already be on retirement. This really do not augur well for, you know, the full and the commitment of people. You need people to work for something. And by way of doing that, when they work, knowing very well that tomorrow they can be recognized and be made IGP. But then, you know, you just cut it off because you have one person who probably will do your bidding. Well, I think it's for me, if you ask me, it's a sorry state.
It may plant some seed of hatred among
precisely, and for me, it will even kill that spirit of wanting to work hard to see the police grow. Because after all, there will be nothing to look up to, nothing to fight for. So if I am there and I have about 3 years and I know that, look, if I do so well, you know, commit myself to doing that, to move the police forward, I will be recognized and probably be made the IGP if I happen to be the second in line. And then you have this IGP having his tenure extended. What it means is that I don't have anywhere going. I am completely, you know, locked up. So what do I have to do? It's going to be business as usual.
But there are
people
those who think that, I mean, this is lawful, and those who are behind him wanting
you see,
to go,
it is lawful. Like I said, he has, by way of the Constitution, has the mandate to do that. But
well, so yes, the president acted lawfully. You hear Emmanuel Koting talk about a particular decision that has been taken, which he says does not follow due process. Did the president do anything wrong? Well, NPP stalwart, Togbe Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, has written a very lengthy piece on this matter. You can find the full complement of it on 3news.com. He addresses a number of issues. And shortly we'll be having Richard Kumado, security analyst, also joining us in a bit. This is the first point that Togbe Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo addresses. No constitutional violation. The president, as commander-in-chief, has the authority to appoint, maintain, or extend the service of security heads. This includes the IGP. The Constitution grants him this discretion because national security demands stability, continuity, and trust. We have seen this before. A former IGP received an extension beyond retirement age because the government at the time believed it was necessary. There was no outcry then, and the same principles apply now. So the claim of constitutional violation is baseless. misinterpretation of the suspension letter. A letter from the presidency written partly in local dialect, commonly called Aspa Banka, speaks of a suspension of the special grant apprenticeship arrangement for officers approaching 60. The public must understand the language. And he's addressing a number of things that Emmanuel Coutin raised. One, suspension does not mean cancellation. It simply pauses the process. If the policy were not or were meant to be scrapped entirely, the word would have been revoked. Therefore, using this letter to suggest that the IGP cannot continue is a misunderstanding. The letter does not eliminate the pathway for extensions. It only pauses an internal process. We are dealing with a sensitive security environment, political tension, crime, and general instability. In such a climate, the president must rely on people he trusts. The IGP plays a critical role in intelligence, public order, and the general safety of the state. If the president believes retaining the IGP ensures stability, he is right to do so. This is not politics, this is national security. And no illegal action. He repeats, the Constitution supports the president's decision, President supports it, national security considerations justify it. The noise surrounding this matter is unnecessary and stems from a lack of understanding of governance. And he concludes in simple, direct terms, the president has not breached the Constitution, the issue of suspension is being misinterpreted, and the decision to retain the IGP is well within his lawful authority as Commander-in-Chief, essentially. That's Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo there. And Richard Kumado is a security analyst joining us on Zoom as well. So Kumado, thank you for joining us. You have put out a scorecard for Christian Teteyono. Does it really justify this decision of the extension?
Definitely, yes. And if you remember, I put up the scorecard a month ago, and when the police council did the suggestive recommendations, and I look into what they have done, I saw 6 or 7 of the things I wrote about, they confirming it. That tells you that by the grace of God, with those that has been assigned with their responsibility as gatekeepers, and as those who watch the national security terrain and the security management terrain of Ghana and across many places, we are looking at it with an objective view, independently, and coming to the same conclusion. I think we've done a yeoman's job. But then here you see, the first point is that it is the prerogative of the president to appoint people at all times into various positions. And when it comes to the levels of IGP and the director being at that level, particularly the IGP with the police council has a responsibility to recommend. And so to the extent that the president is acting on the recommendations of the police council, we will say that all righteousness has been fulfilled. When it comes to the core issues, they are the ones I've stated in the KPIs I said, but for the purposes of public education, I think security leadership, operational competencies, and having the ability to mobilize teams to perform maintaining law and order, and to investigate crimes within timelines is what has worked for my uncle, Christian Teteyono. And to that extent, we are saying that from where he took over from, within this short period of time, continuity has been achieved, stability has been achieved, and you can say that the police have a stable front. And it is my hope and wish that whoever takes over from him will maintain the same pedestal, working together with the CID bloc that my sister Lydia Yako is not new when it comes to security intelligence. What most people don't know is that her mother is a top BNI officer who have done it all at the highest level. So she was born into it. And these two groups, the CID bloc and the IGP bloc, working together. That is why they have achieved what they have said, and that is what I wrote as the KPI. So I wasn't surprised at all.
I see, but then you hear this argument come up every now and then about when there's an extension, how it would impact on the morale of other persons who are also in line to be considered or as IGP in the future. So how should Christian Tete Yohuno manage this sentiment, which, yes, like it or not, it will be there, because if you have some persons who are in line getting to know that last year when he was appointed, and then, in fact, going into the most part of this year, as a matter of fact, when he was appointed this year, and his name came up strongly last year, he was appointed as a deputy IGP. This year, coming up as a substantive IGP. There were many who knew that he had just 1 year to go on retirement. But then again, you would have others who would also be counting their chances. How does he deal with that sentiment to get the support of all the others around him for the next 2 years?
Now, I think people are bringing in NDC and NPP propaganda politics that is unproductive sometimes. If you look at where my uncle Christian Yohuno took over from my uncle Dan Parry, Nene, you are aware that when Dan Parry's name went up, there was a huge jubilation among the police because of the chaos and the 10 cardinal sins of my uncle Akufo Dan Parry. When Yohuno's name came up and he took over, you saw the celebration. People were throwing money. And I remember you interviewed me, and I went after those who were throwing the money. My checks have shown that there's stability. I haven't heard many of these negative things we are talking about. But if we want to benchmark what he'll be leaving behind as a standard principle, that we will benchmark the legacies of Christian Tete Yohuno, then we are looking at leadership, we are looking at maintaining law and order, we are looking at unity, and we are looking at cohesion. Why did that bring cohesion? Many of the people who deserve promotions, Christian Tete Yohuno made sure that deservedly they have all been promoted. Many of the people who were sent home that the police management board felt that it was harsh, he brought them back. One of them is my uncle who handles the cyber security department, Mr. JP. Then IGP Tete Yohuno made sure that the 2020 and 2024 election violence investigations, that the president wrote that beautiful letter, investigations were done, and the results were sent to the Attorney General. Then there was a document that got lost of one of our brothers who people perceived that he was mining in a forest reserve, and the docket got vanished. They produced the docket. Then we came to Akotia when the election came up, and you saw what Yohuno is made of. Most people do not know that when IGP Kudalo was the IGP, Christian Tete Yohuno was the director of operations. And even before Dan Parry's name came up, Yohuno's name was all over the place. Today, people are saying that within 1 year, he has done so much that cannot be compared to Dan Parry. How many years has Dan Parry been an IGP? Okay. And you cannot talk about the success of Dan Parry without Yohuno, because that is why the president, Akufo-Addo, made him the deputy IGP and the director of operations. And then you remember I said that the president has the prerogative of making him a deputy IGP, but not in an official capacity as the director of operations. And Justice Abdullah, who you just spoke to, went to court with that case. So people must understand the precedents we are talking about and the security infrastructure we are talking about. I am hoping and praying that they will not pray the NDC politics and the NPP politics that is unproductive sometimes, and they, the law enforcement officers, particularly the police officers, they will work together like I have seen. There will be unity, there will be stability, and whoever is chosen to become the IGP, they will have a straightforward front. Other than that, if they break their front, then they are ready to go back to the decisions and the issues they had before Yohuno came. But then let me make this point emphatically. This particular position is a political position. It's a political appointment. So you don't join the police force and say, I am in line and it's going to be my turn. The president can surprise you. And from the many things some of us are hearing from the vineyard, anything can happen. And when it happens, we'll be here and we will speak for them, but they need to put their house in order.
And I do thank you. Until such a time when whatever happens, we would wait and also get to see how the next 2 years will be for Christian Tete Yohuno. Only wish him well. But I thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Nene. Thank you, Nene.
That's Richard Kumado, is a security analyst joining us on this particular issue. But coming up next, there's a new 11-member committee that is set up to steer Ghana's 2026 World Cup campaign. But how crucial will this be? on this matter. Now, this issue was topical on social media amongst what we call the football people in this country. Chief of Staff Julius Deborah earlier today inaugurated an 11-member ministerial oversight committee to steer Ghana's preparation and participation in the 2026 FIFA World Cup. It was a ceremony that was held earlier today at the Jubilee House. Julius Deborah urged the committee to carry out its mandate with integrity and also utmost dedication to ensure smooth and effective coordination ahead of the tournament. Here's a composition of the membership of this 11-member committee. And I want you to follow me. These are the ladies and gentlemen you see there. Stanislav Dogbe, Office of the President. Kofi Adams, Sports and Recreation Minister. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, Foreign Affairs, he'll be in charge of that unit. And there's George Opariado, Youth Development. Honorable Yusuf Jaja, the Deputy Minister. Tourism and Culture. Ampem Nyako is Deputy Finance Minister. So from the Finance Ministry, he's representing on this committee. Keto Kreku, GFA Chair, representing the GFA on this committee. And then there's Elizabeth Yanka, Deputy National Security Coordinator. There's Abedi Pele, the maestro. Abedi Pele is on this one. And then there is Mrs. Wilhelmina Asamoah, Chief Director at the Sports Ministry. These individuals make up the 11-member committee that has been inaugurated today. Well, the question. Let me bring in Jerome Ochre. We'll start a conversation and just have to, go on this on a break at some point. But Jerome is joining us right now on Zoom. Jerome Ochre is a celebrated sports journalist in this country, former editor of Kotoko Express. Jerome, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. When this announcement, the inauguration was made earlier, the conversation amongst your colleagues, the football people and the journalists on social media is the relevance of this particular committee, because we've been at the World Cup 4 times. This is not the first time. And so why this committee? Is this a question that should merit a response and some explanation from the persons who put this together? I'm talking about government.
I would have expected that for a country that has been to the World Cup 4 times, 2 of them in a row, we would have by now understood what it means to be at the World Cup and the things that we have to do so that our 5th appearance wouldn't warrant the setting up of a committee. But there will be systems in place to just allow whatever ought to be done by those systems and whoever is manning those systems. I would have thought that we would have had the FA, for instance, working directly with the government, in this case, the Sports and Recreation Ministry, to just handle matters. But you see, I am not surprised. I'm not surprised because we've had a way of doing things that usually makes you wonder whether we are really in tune with the times we lived in. Look, the other countries that have qualified for the World Cup, that will be there. You will not hear of committees and people being put together to organize funds and ensure tourism and travel. We seem to have a lot of time to do a lot of things that in the end really will not add or take anything away from what we'll be doing at the World Cup. It doesn't surprise me because this is how we've chosen to do things over time, and it is just living up to the script, because
what did we do the very first time we went to the World Cup? Did we set up committees to manage these things that today we say are going to be managed by the committee that has been put in place? The second time in 2010, did we do these things? In fact, 2014 was a disaster. So if I'm told that we want to ensure that the things that happened in 2014 will not recur, maybe I would say, okay, it makes sense. But what about 2022? How did we get to the World Cup? What did we do? What has changed at the FA? Yes, maybe government has changed. Yeah, there's a new government in place. But the people who took us to the 2022 World Cup are all still around. If you are talking about the administration, yes, the players, the players may have changed, but Otto Addo is still around. He took us to the 2022 World Cup, and he's going to take us again to the 2026 World Cup. So I don't really find, I'm not too impressed with the setting up of the committee, but it doesn't surprise me. I believe that if we have qualified for the World Cup, and indeed we have, and we want to go to the World Cup and participate and excel and do the things that people expect of us, you don't need a committee to do anything, except that we have created certain things for ourselves. I am against, for instance, employing supporters to anywhere the Black Stars play to support the team. It's a waste of money. Right. Experience has also shown us that we have not always managed such things.
But Jerome, just on that point, the sports minister, Kofi Adams, has been clear that government is not going to sponsor supporters to the World Cup. What the government will do is to facilitate the acquisition of visas, and then the supporter unions or the supporters unions would then have to use their own fundraising skills to raise money to go to the World Cup. That's been clearly stated. I just wanted to put that across. That's if you're not aware.
Always said one thing and done the other. 2022, we heard similar stories, but we also know what happened. I don't believe it, not because I don't trust the system, but experience has shown me that they don't do what they say. And so I would want to see it happening before I believe it. You see, Alfred, my whole point is this. Why are we going to the World Cup? Is it a fanfare? Yes, I know football generates a lot of fans, so we want to send fans and the fans cheer their team and all that. No sports person or football person will be against having supporters or fans at the stadium to cheer their team. But if we have to do that at the expense of the Ghanaian taxpayer, I will always be against that. There's no sense in that. I mean, we have a lot more important things to do with the taxes we pay than to put supporters on a bus or on an aeroplane to anywhere, any part of this world to watch football or support our senior national team. So if that is what they are saying, I mean, let them say what they want to say. With a great of respect, I will not even want to run any commentary on that because, like I said, experience has taught us that they don't live by what they say.
I see. Well, but there's a committee in place, and I just wanted to reiterate the point that this has been at least the publicly stated position of the minister that government is not going to sponsor supporters, and would want to hold the minister by that until there's a contrary development. Jerome, I'm going to go for this quick break. When we're back, I'll find your views on the committee members and whether it makes a difference. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7. Jerome Otri, thank you for the patience staying with us. But quickly, before I let you go, if you look at the composition of this committee, the members, we're going to put them on the screen right now. We have individuals representing specific offices. And the addition there that has also gotten some commendation is Abedi Ayew Pele, the maestro, in there. Does that make any difference for you?
Oh, it does. It does in the sense that if you have followed Abedi Pele very well, I mean, I was privileged to have seen him play from 1992 thereabout until he retired. If you have seen him since he retired from national or international football, he's been very quiet. He has hardly gotten involved in the administration of our game, and it's not like he doesn't have the competence to do anything. I think his style has been to just stay off the public scene and concentrate on his family or his business. And I give him a lot of respect for that. For him to have accepted to be part means that he probably believes there's something to be done and he can offer his ideas or contribute meaningfully to whatever they've been tasked to do. That's why I would say that, again, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Yes, Abedi Pele has a lot of clout. I mean, one of the best footballers to have ever graced Ghana, Africa, and the world over, if you like. He has such a huge status in the game. And I believe that whatever he's asked to do on that committee, he will offer his best, given his reputation, given his level of influence and all that. I just hope that my fear has always been the political class. I mean, some of these guys we are talking about in terms of their pedigree in the game, there's nothing you can say except to believe that they will do a good job, like Abedi Pele. But, you know, politics in this country is something else. You get yourself involved and things don't go well, and by the time you realize your image or reputation has been soiled. I say this with a lot of pain, but that has been the reality.
Right. Jerome, thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, we'll see how the coming days will look like on this, whether or not you're going to be proven wrong or proven right. Thank you for joining us. Jerome Otri is a celebrated sports journalist. I want to say thank you. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. Join us same time tomorrow for another conversation. I am Alfred Okanse. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint, superior durability.